Hello, greetings and welcome back to my channel V Details. Myself Vikash, and this channel is all about auto detailing. Today what I have behind me is a Benelli Imperial 400 and it's about a year old, 11,000 kilometers on the odometer, totally trashed out paint, lot of deep defects, but anyway it's in the hands of a professional, so I'm going to go deal with that. And by the way, this is owned by Mr. Vinod, who is a great gentleman by the way, as well as the owner of the YouTube channel Highway Mafia. I hope you guys go there and subscribe to his channel as well and support him too. Thanks. And coming back to the bike, trashed out paint, which I'll show you in a minute. I have pre-inspected the paint surface and mentally prepared myself what I'm going to do. So I'm going to correct the paint surface and then protect that with 9H ceramic coating for a longer lasting protection. And that is not coming up on this episode of Finance Episode. Stay tuned.
Here to begin with, I had to remove all the stickers and tank paint because there were just more stickers than paint on this motorcycle. I had used different techniques to get rid of the stickers, and don't worry, I'll make a dedicated DIY video titled how to remove stickers and decals from your bike or car. So kindly subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for that. And I'll also be coming up with more DIY based how to videos on enhance and preserve, so stay tuned for that too. First, I begin with disassembling the removable parts to gain more access to the painted surface. And while doing that, I noticed all the bolts and nuts I had removed had rust piled up on them. So I decided to dunk them in a rust removal liquid and left aside. After removing all the stickers, the tank looked something like this. Really messed up. There is a lot of swirls and scratches, faded paint, and this is just a year old, so it has no protection over it, so it has got a lot of defects on the paint. But anyway, these defects were bound to come because they are love marks, but something caught me was this little paint chip there, and there were a lot of chips beneath the seats too, but that was fine. But this one I had to remove. So I got a perfectly formulated paint and started cleaning, that is degreasing the painted surface that was chipped up with a microfiber cloth, and was prepping the surface for paint filling. The dots, the paint chips that were beneath the seat were also fine because they're not going to be visible, but this thing on the tank was clearly visible, so I had to fix that with a toothpick and a perfectly formulated paint. As you guys can see, I just filled up the paint with a toothpick and it's slowly blending in. Went ahead and filled the chips that were beneath the seats too, because I would like to keep it 100. While that was left to dry, I took out my paint thickness gauge and started measuring the paint surface, which was above 170 microns. It was almost over an hour, so I took a look at the nuts and bolts that were dunked in a liquid and noticed that the rust had started getting released from the surface. I then get ready for a concourse paint correction job. Now, since the paint was really trashed out and it almost had over 170 microns of thickness, I decided to begin with sanding. So I started wet sanding with 1500 grit to remove the imperfections in the paint. After 1500, I used 3000 grit to smoothen out the paint surface before I move on to next compounding step, and it looked something like this after sanding. I then shift with the blue gauze foam pad from repairs and start compounding the paint surface. Now if I had dry sanded it, then I would have chosen a wool pad, but since I wet sanded it, I went ahead with a foam pad because that's gonna get the job done. I make proper overlapping passes with the right arm speed as well as the machine speed, and the results after compounding were just great. Just look at the surface when I start wiping out with a microfiber cloth. With all the shine and gloss popping up, I just had one word in my mind, and wow. This was definitely the best paint on a motorcycle I have ever worked with. You must definitely wait for how it looked after polishing it out with a fine polishing compound. Trust me, the camera doesn't do any justice here. The color was more popping to the naked eyes. Anyway, I then move on with the side shields. I begin with compounding the surface, and I noticed that the side shields had comparatively less defects than that of the fuel tank, And the reason for that I found out while conversing with the gentleman, and he said that whenever he's taking his son along with him, he makes him sit on the fuel tank. Well, yes, that happens in India. Anyway, thanks to Benelli, there was enough paint thickness, hence there was enough space for me to go ahead and sand the defects out and then compound them and polish them for a perfectly new paint finish. Plus, the defects on the other painted parts were not that deep, so I just had to compound and polish them out for a good finish. The chrome parts had some oversurface contaminants and minor rusts, so I used a chrome polish along with a microfiber cloth and rubbed out with my finger on the chrome parts, so that had left a almost new look to the chromes. Now that all the parts were corrected and enhanced, it was time to preserve them with a 9H ceramic coating. Took few drops on the applicator and started applying on the paint surface evenly with overlapping passes, not leaving even a little square inch. Adding a ceramic coating protection to the paint surface is going to resist against all the oxidation from the sun's UV rays. As you saw in the beginning of this video, the paint was all oxidized. Anyway, it's not no more, and it also increases gloss and slickness, and it looks something like this.